It's the buying a house in a pandemic for me. Hey guys, Tez here and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from the title of this video, your girl is a homeowner. Hey! Guys, I can't. Like, I don't even know how to express myself. I mean, I can't because I'm broke AF and I cannot afford to express myself. Like, normally I would have bought myself something to celebrate, but I can't even do that because I'm broke. Joking. So I just wanted to come in here and tell you about my house buying process and how it went, basically. So before we get started, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe and share the video. Thanks. As you know, it's a pandemic, and because of that we've been unable to go anywhere, and so I've not been spending money on travelling, which is something that I tend to do a lot normally. I have been unable to spend my money on clothes because I told myself that I would not be purchasing any clothes this year, and I've been unable to go out for food, to go out for drinks, to go out to get lit. Nada, just been at home. And so I've managed to save a lot more money than I normally would. Now I am very privileged in that I live at home with my mum, and so my bills, if any, are very minimal compared to people who have to rent or who live out. I definitely recognise my privilege and I'm super grateful. If you're interested, then continue watching. Honestly, till this day, I think house buying has been the most stressful. I say till this day like anything more stressful has happened in my life since. But yeah, anyways, it's been the most stressful situation I've ever been in my life so far. When lockdown was lifted, I think, was it back in June or July, I decided to just have a look to see what was out there, because I couldn't really travel still, and my bank balance, I was comparing my savings from last year to this year, and though they had gone up, there was no interest there, and they'd only gone up because I'd put more money in there. If I'd left it the way it was, the interest, I think I got like £20 interest on a lot of money that I'd put in the savings account. So it's just like, this is ridiculous. I'm bouncing. Like, I may as well buy a house because my money is just not making me more money. Like, the pound last year is worth less than the pound today, so I'm essentially losing money by just leaving it in the bank. So I started looking on Rightmove and Zoopla. Now, I am a bit weird in that I use both. I know there's a lot of people who prefer either Zoopla or Rightmove for different reasons. So I would go on Zoopla first. The thing about Zoopla is that you can, if the house has been sold previously, sometimes it will tell you at the bottom the year that it was sold and the price that it was sold for. Because I would have the street name from Zoopla and I would know what year the house was sold for and what price, I would then go on Rightmove and type in that address and go through all the addresses for that street. So number 1, number 3, number 5, yada yada yada, until I found that house. Then that would give me the pictures of what it looked like before the current owners bought it. Let's say they bought it 5 years ago for 100k, for example, and then now they're selling it for 250k 5 years later. I would want to see what it is that they've done to that property for it to go from 100k to 250. Like, what have they done that's made it worth 150k more? Like, I know inflation and house prices go up or whatever, but 150 is a lot. So unless they've done a side extension with those panoramic windows at the back and the roof is all glass and it's got everything brand new, then I'm being scammed here. So that's what I would normally do. And also what I would then do, because that would then give me the house number. When I went on Rightmove, I could use the house number to type it into Google Maps, and then I would have like a virtual street view of what the street looks like. And then if I liked what I saw, then I would go do a drive by. So I'll drive down that street to see whether, I don't know, like, is there anything sketchy going on? Is it loud? Is it quiet? Is there parking? And then if I was happy, then I would call the estate agent to book a viewing. So it might seem excessive, but I feel like if you're investing a lot of money into that property, you want to make sure that that property is good for you, I guess. So a lot of people might disagree with me on this, but I wasn't really bothered about where I lived in my city. So I knew I wanted to stay in my city. There are a couple of areas that I didn't want to stay, only because of, you know, race. It is still a thing, unfortunately, in some parts of the world. What can you do? So initially I was working on a 10% deposit, which is what it normally is. But I think by the time we got to August, a lot of the banks, because of stamp, I don't know whether it was because of stamp duty or the risk, but they stopped doing 10% and you could only buy a property with 15%. I then had to reduce the limit of the house I could get, which I guess in a way made my life easier because there was less to choose from. Once I knew my price range and my 15%, I then started to look to view houses. Basically, I think I was on like 2 a week. It was almost like a hobby. Like every day I'll be on Rightmove, on Zoopla, and then after that I would do the street view stuff, and then I'll book to go see. And because of the pandemic, you were only allowed 10 minutes in a property, which isn't enough time to have a proper look and see what's going on. So because you have 10 minutes, you're sort of like, okay, is it, you just turn on the taps, is the tap going to come off, is whatever, like a quick look, like you're not getting really deep into it. I think I viewed about 10 maybe before I found one that I liked. I think by the time you view 10, you sort of know whether you're going to like the house before you've even gone there, because houses in England are quite similar. So when it's a 2-bed, then you know what you're working with, like does it have a galley kitchen, you sort of expect the sizes, then you can look at the floor plan. Oh, that was another thing, if the house didn't have a floor plan, I didn't go view it, because pictures can be very deceiving. That's what I've learned. I mean, Instagram has deceiving pictures, but whoo, these estate agents, they need to be on Instagram, because some of the witchcraft that they were doing in those pictures is diabolical. So I think in the middle of August I found one that I liked. It was like a cute 2-bed, end of terrace. It was sort of like a semi. Because it was on a corner plot, it had 3 gardens. So it had the garden in the back, and then it had the whole side, and then it had the front as well. Went to see it, 10 minutes, boom boom, in out. I was like, okay, cool. And then I found a mortgage advisor, which probably I should have done that before I started this, to be honest. She was like, oh, okay, cool, like this is what you're working with, that's your deposit. She did like a soft check for me. And then the car, the Merc came to haunt me and hurt me, guys. In England, when you get a mortgage, you get a maximum of 4.5 times your annual salary. Because of the car, it meant that I had a smaller salary than what you might expect me to have. And even though I used to do overtime and shift work and weekends and late nights, the banks were not looking at that. They were only looking at your base salary, because they were saying that because of the pandemic you couldn't guarantee your overtime and your shift patterns, even though because of where I work is pretty much guaranteed. But we don't need to get into that. Luckily, the 2 beds that I found was at the maximum of whatever the bank would have lent me. I know it's not recommended to borrow the maximum that you're allowed to borrow, but you know, what can you do when you want to drive a bougie car? You have to do what you have to do. So I applied for a mortgage, and luckily it went through. So then they did the survey and that was all fine. And then I was reading on the internet about doing your own surveys, because especially for older properties, which this one was, I decided to do my own survey, and I think that was probably the best grand I've ever spent in my whole life, because honestly it was very not good. There was asbestos everywhere. Like the guy was like, you don't even need to do a test because it's 100% obvious that this is asbestos. And because I went with him, with the surveyor, to the property, even because I had more time to look at the property, I was just like, this is not for me. But I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do? I'm already at the survey stage, I've got a mortgage and I'm not feeling this house. There was damp everywhere, like it was a visible damp, and I think I'd missed it the first time because it was raining, it was dark, the lights weren't on, and I think I turned the lights off to just check that the switch worked, and then I turned them off again. So I didn't really inspect the property properly, so there was that visible damp everywhere. It had a bay window, the bay window was coming apart, the roof needed replacing, and the worst of it, guys, rodents. Ew, scary. Scary! So scary! It was a lot. It was really a lot. I spoke to the surveyor and then he was like, it's obviously your money and I can't tell you what to do, but this is not a first time buyer's property. This is like a renovation property that's done by people who flip houses or people who buy to let, not somebody who wants to live there. He was like, oh, you shouldn't be like drilling holes to pin a picture because you might crack the asbestos. I can't even have a mirror in my own house without getting asbestos removed for lots and lots of money. So yeah, I had to pull out because it was just, it was more than what I could handle. So I took a break because the mortgage offer that I'd had from the bank was going to last until February. So I thought, let me just take a break, reset myself, and then maybe start looking again. When I started looking again, I did my whole street view thing, and then I was driving down the street and then I saw the house that I'd gone to see, and I wasn't going to call them because the garden was non-existent. It was literally like a triangle just in the back because it was like a corner house again. I don't know why I'm always looking at corner houses. But as I was driving down the street, I came across another house that was for sale. I was like, oh, this is interesting, because it was the same street. So I'd already done a street view, so I knew I liked that street. And then I just quickly called the estate agents and I booked to go view the property, and luckily the owner of the house was there. So I viewed it like 10 minutes after I made the call, and then I was really happy. I was like, oh, this is cute, like it's got good bones, you know, looks a good size, decent garden, yada yada yada. I think this might be it. It looks okay. I first saw the house on the 28th of September, and I made the offer the day after. I gave myself a night to think about it because I didn't want to make the same mistake again. So the next day I was like, do you know what, I really like the house, I'm going to put an offer. So I put an offer on the 29th. The house was more expensive than my previous offer, so I was worried that the bank might not accept my application, so I was a bit scared, to be honest. I was like, oh, bit dodge. I didn't hear anything back, so I just thought, you know what, because sometimes I've had it before where I'd put offers and I didn't hear anything back, and then when I would check on the house it would say sold subject to contract. So I think sometimes the estate agents don't even bother telling you if they've gone with somebody else. So I just thought, oh, that's probably what's happened, like otherwise I would have heard something from her. And then a week later, so on the 6th of October, she accepted the offer, and I was like, oh, yay, how exciting. So then I had to go back to my mortgage advisor and be like, sis, like I got a problem, like I've put an offer on this house that is more than what I bargained for, and I know that this bank had already said we're the max that we're allowed, so what's a girl gonna do? Because of the whole 15% thing and because of the pandemic, I think a lot of lenders were not really, I think some of them were doing 25%. I'm like, where am I supposed to get 25% for a deposit as a first time buyer from? Like, must I now sell my kidney? Like, I don't even think my kidney is worth that much. I think on the 14th she found another bank which said, oh, she seems fine, like we'll take her overtime and her shift patterns into account. So when you do that, I'm actually okay. And because there was less than 6 months left on my car, because it goes back in February, well, end of February, they were like, we don't even include that in the application. I was like, God is great, guys, God is good. So then because of that, the full mortgage application went through, and then on the 21st of October, so a week later, the bank organised their own survey, which was so quick. On the 26th, they gave me an offer and they're like, yeah, this looks legit, like we're good to go when you are, like we're happy to do this today if you wanna. So then I had to organise my own survey again, because after the last one I was like, I'm not finna be fooled twice. And then that was a long process because again of the pandemic, so I had to wait a few weeks before I could book the survey, which was on the 6th of November, and it came out okay. There was nothing major that would put me off the property. There were a few age related issues, but that's to be expected. That was like 2 weeks, I think. 2 weeks, yeah, it took 2 weeks for the results to come back. So I think the survey was done on the 6th and then the results came back on the 18th. Luckily they gave me a 10% discount because I'd already done a survey with them not long ago. So on the 25th of November I had to return my documents to the solicitors. On the 1st of December the LISA people sent me documents to authorise money coming from the ISA to my solicitors. On the 9th of December I had to pay the solicitors the rest of their money and the rest of my deposit, and it was just it was a lot. It was a very, because I'm used to saying, oh, I'm broke with money in my bank account, but I was like, I'm broke because I have no money, nowhere, nothing. It was so much money that I had to use the pin sentry things with my card because my bank was like, this is some dodgy stuff, like you don't do these kind of things before, so we're going to need confirmation that it's you. So I did that. On the 10th, my solicitors were just like, oh, we're going to try exchange contracts today, so make sure you have your building and contents insurance in place. I was like girl, like I had it, so I had to like go and compare the market, get some really quickly to start on that day because they exchange contracts on that day. I was like, I'm liable for this building now. If something happens to it, then it's my responsibility to fix it. And I had a projected completion date of the 14th of December. So on the 14th of December I was like waiting patiently, and then it got to 2 p.m. I was like, why is no one telling me to come collect these keys? Like, it's been a hot minute. And then I called the solicitors and they were like, oh, we're still waiting for the money to be released by your bank. I was like, it's 2 p.m, like why is the money not been released? They're like, oh, you need to call them because we've been trying to call them and they've just said to wait. So then I called the bank and they said apparently my solicitors had initially said that we were completing on the 11th, so the bank had done the checks and the money was going to be released on the 11th. But then because my solicitors called them again and said actually we want the completion date on the 14th, that meant that my application went to the back of the queue and they had to do the final checks again, which I don't get that. But yeah, they were like, oh, if we've not done it by 4 p.m. then call us again, because they do the last checks by 4. So if the money's not been transferred by 4 p.m. that means you have to wait till the next day. I said, you know what, just be patient, like there's nothing I can do about it now. I've paid them, all I can do is wait. So then my solicitors sent me an email at like 5 o'clock saying, oh, we've received the funds, we're going to try still complete today, you should contact the estate agent so they're ready, yada yada yada. And then this was 5 o'clock and the estate agents close at 5:30. I was like, how are they going to try? I was like, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take initiative and go sit outside the estate agent's office for half an hour in case it completes today so I can get my keys, because I've been waiting too long for this house and I'm ready for the keys. So then they did all that, and then at 5:29 the estate agent calls me. They're like, oh yeah, everything's completed but we close in a minute, so can you get here in the next 10 so someone can wait, otherwise we'll have to go home. I was like, don't worry about it, sweetheart.
Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it, sweetheart.
Don't worry about it, I'm outside already. So then I just went in quickly, got the keys, which was very exciting, and then yeah, I got the keys and now I'm a homeowner, and that is how I got my house. So if you want to see my empty house tour, subscribe and you'll see it in the next couple of videos hopefully. And I'm going to do another video on how I managed to save my deposit, which and give you some tips which might be helpful if you're in the same situation as me. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you have any video ideas. Tap the like button so the video reaches more people. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, bye for now.